What's up, fight fans, and welcome back to the KJ MMA Show. I am your host, Garrett Kerman, and with me, as always, is my man, Ryan Jarrell. What's up, man? How's it going?
What's going on, Garrett? It's good to see you. Happy 2022.
Happy 2022, man.
Yeah, it's been far too long. We've been missing some fights.
Yes.
I guess a little fight, a little combat sports withdrawal for myself.
Yes.
I'm sure you feel the same way, but at least the good thing is right around the corner, we have Calvin Kattar, Giga Chikadze main event. That's going to be a great card. And then just announced we have for March 5th, UFC 272, we have Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway, the rematch there. And then the co-main event, Piotr Jan, Aljamain Sterling. I mean, talk about a card you can't miss.
Absolutely. I mean, that whole entire month is stacked top to bottom. Every single fight card. I'm looking forward to it. We got so many great fights coming up just next week. I mean, coming back, from a long withdrawal of, UFC fights, it's going to be a great time in 2022. A lot is in store for us. I'm really, really looking forward to it all.
Yeah, and we didn't even mention yet UFC 270. That is right around the corner. That is January 22nd. That's headlined by the heavyweight championship, Francis Ngannou, Cyril Gane. Then you got Brandon Moreno and Davidson Figueiredo in the co-main event. And we actually have Tony Gravely, UFC Bantamweight, on the show today. So we'll dive into all of that and get his fight picks and talk about that monster event. But first, before we bring Tony on, Garrett, I did want to just get your initial take on UFC 272. Volkanovski, Holloway, Jan, Sterling. What stands out to you as, I guess, the major headlines to really look for in these matchups?
Oh man, I feel like it's gonna be revolved around that rematch between Jan and Sterling. Everybody wants to see it. We want to see how Sterling is going to be coming off, his injuries and surgery and all of that, and we want to see if Jan is still as dominant as he's been showing. I mean, Sterling is still a tough opponent, no matter what he's been going through. And that's one fight I think everybody's not going to want to miss. And of course, you can't forget about Max Holloway and Volkanovski #3. I mean, this is going to be another close contested fight, one for the ages. I can't really pick a winner because I couldn't pick a winner in the last two. I was able to pick Volkanovski in the last one and skated by and the skin of my teeth. But this is going to be a great fight. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to see what else they put on this card. If you know that those two fights are at the top, they're going to stack the rest of that card. So I'm looking forward to it big time.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna look and see what other fights are on that card right now that has been announced. But I will say this: you mentioned Jan and Sterling. I'm really intrigued about that as well. And look, I don't mean to sound disrespectful towards Sterling. I think he's amazing. I think he's clearly he deserves to have a belt around his waist, right? But I mean, for all intents and purposes, I feel like everyone that knows the sport feels like Piotr Jan is the true champ of that division, right?
Right.
I feel like we're going to see the best version of Piotr Jan in this fight, and I mean, again, don't want to sound dismissive of Sterling. I'm just really, really intrigued about how good Jan is going to look because this is a legacy fight for him. A lot of people were like, thinking that he was going to climb that mountaintop and be the absolute best, and Sterling kept it really competitive there in that first fight, and then the illegal shot and all of that. I'm not as excited about that fight as I am about Holloway and Volkanovski. I felt like Holloway potentially could have won that second fight. And with what Volkanovski just went through with Ortega, almost getting submitted by Brian Ortega, who's a submission wizard, like one of the best in the game, this fight for me is really intriguing because if Max Holloway doesn't win, where does he go from here? That would be 3 losses to the champion. They're not going to give him another title shot. I can't imagine. It's just like, why, right? So
Right.
if he doesn't win, does he go up to 55? How good can he be at 55? We saw him he got worked by Dustin Poirier, and Dustin Poirier has been proven not to be the best in that division. So if Holloway can't stay the champion at 45, I don't envision really a chance for him being the champion at 55. It's just the guys are bigger, they're stronger. It's going to be more difficult for him. So that is the thing that stands out for me about these two initial matchups for this monster UFC 272 event.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting because like the first two fights, they were extremely close, could have gone either way, and we're gonna get the same. We're gonna get a nail biter, tooth and nail to the very very end. 25 minutes back and forth kind of war. That's a fight of the night, fight of the year, potential candidate right there, then and there. Just only 3 months in to 2022. And we still got a lot more fights after that. So I'm really looking forward to what this year, has in store for us. I know, Dana White, Sean Shelby, and all of the crew really have a lot, on their plate and a lot they're going to probably be dishing out to us for this year, especially come summertime. We know Contender Series is going to be coming back. International Fight Week is probably going to be back up and running. So, there's going to be some great events around there. So I'm really looking forward to what's to come and everything that's in store for us, because I'm super excited. Like I said, we're only a weeks away from some great fights, Giga Chikadze and Calvin Kattar, and a lot of great fights in that card, and moving forward throughout the year.
Yeah, no doubt. And have you seen what Kevin Holland shared recently? It was a meme. He put it on, I think, all of his social media accounts, and it's of Dave Chappelle playing that character where he's like, "Hey, you got some crack? You got some crack?" And he's got like the white powder like around him, right? And he's basically saying, "Hey, Dana White, like we need some fights. Can you give us some fights?" That's basically how all of us fight fans feel right now, waiting for more fights to come back. But I have it pulled up right now, the other fights that have been announced for UFC 272. So get this: featherweight bout, Edson Barbosa, Bryce Mitchell.
Oh,
That's
man.
a banger. Talk about a fight you can't miss. Jessica Ai versus Manon Fiorot. Marina Moroz versus Maria Agapova.
I want to see that. Bad blood there. They're going to be going at it. I like that fight so much.
Get this one: Dustin Jacoby, Michael Ochelijek. I butchered that last name, but
Olejniczak.
Olejniczak.
Oh,
yeah.
Man, that's a good one.
Yeah, Tim Elliott versus Tagir Ulubekov. Marina Rodriguez versus Yonan Yan. I'm just butchering these names.
Yeah, no, Jan. Just put Jan, because that's a hard name. I can't get that either.
The UFC, the toughest names to pronounce in any professional sport, period. There's no debating it.
You got to give kudos to John Anik and the whole crew, the whole commentating team, and being able to pronunciate all these names correctly, because that is not easy to do. Let me tell you.
No, it's not. But with all of that said, Garrett, we have Tony waiting, so let's bring in our guest here today for this awesome show, UFC Bantamweight Tony Gravely. All right, and here he is, UFC Bantamweight Tony Gravely, who's going to be facing Saimon Oliveira at UFC 270 on January the 22nd. Tony, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you guys?
Very well. I know Garrett's doing good too, man. It's always great to talk to you, Tony. And there's a lot to get to. You've been made some headlines. You got a new UFC contract. You're fighting on one of the biggest cards of the year, UFC 270. First, I just want to recap your most recent fight, and you had some awesome moments in that fight. I thought you had your opponent out of there. It looked like you did, anyways. Ultimately, you didn't get the job done. You lost that one to Nate Maness. What's the takeaway from that fight?
I think for me the biggest takeaway was just staying patient and consistent, and the way I approached the fight. At the end of the round, I dropped him and almost had him finish, but the second round I came out and did more head hunting than I did in the first round, which smart thing to do was to continue to do what got me to that point in the first place. And, I kind of lost track of that, got a little wild. And because I got wild, I opened myself up more. And then, I got hit with a clean shot. It dropped me, and, he jumped on me, and the ref stopped it. So the main thing is just, continue to stay patient. It's not over till it's over, so there's no need to stray away from what got you to that situation. So that's my biggest takeaway from the last fight.
Yeah, I remember that fight very vividly because, I'm a big fan of yours, and I had a lot of money riding on you because I was very confident in your abilities, and I always do. I'm pretty sure I bet on you in every single one of your fights, just letting you know. But, remembering that first round, and when you knocked him down, he looked like he was out cold. Do you think if you possibly just kind of stepped away and didn't jump on him, do you think the ref would have stopped that fight?
Yeah, I think so. Looking back, I looked at it. I've seen it, a bunch of times, and I think if I would have just not touched him, he would have the referee would have realized that he was just kind of sitting there, with his head between his knees, kind of. So, but it's really hard to not want to just jump on somebody after you hurt them, But in hindsight, if I could go back and just step back, I would have done that, or maybe if I would have just stayed on my feet and threw like a really big uppercut and I would have landed that, maybe that would have like ended it. So there's a lot of things I look back and I'm like, man, if I'd have did this, if I'd have did that. But the only thing I can do now is, I have that in the back of my head. Now I know in the future, if that situation happens again, I'll react a little bit different. In the way I approach, finishing the fight, especially with the short amount of time left. You could argue, if I had 5 more seconds, it would have been over from there, but I didn't. So, all I can do is I can sit here and think about what I should have did, but I can't change it. Only thing I can do is just know that when it happens again, I'll know what to do now.
Yeah, and I think it goes without saying that. I mean, you must have been pretty darn disappointed after that fight was over. If you would have won that fight, that would have been 3 in a row in the UFC for you, man. Like, is that the biggest disappointment of your career so far?
I would say so. I mean, there's a lot of a lot of losses that are disappointments, but at the end of the day, I still had the opportunity to fight on one of the biggest MMA show. So I can't really say that I'm disappointed. I mean, I am disappointed, but if you look at it in hindsight and all the way through, I'm just fortunate that I get to do what I do and have the opportunity to get back in there and continue to chase my dream. But I mean, yeah, it definitely it hurt. It hurt. It took some time. It was for a while. I was kind of bitter about it. It was I didn't want to watch the fights the next week, and I didn't want to watch any fights for a while. And I was just kind of had a little pity party, and then it was it. Back in the gym, and the best way I've learned in the past, this isn't my first loss. The best way to get over it is to you have your almost like mourning period where you kind of get upset and you kind of mope a little bit. And then after that, you get back in the gym. And the best way to get over it is to get another fight, get a win. And, you won't forget it, but it makes, helps the process of getting over it a lot better when you get in there, have a fight and can get a win.
And another good way to get over it is to get a new UFC contract, which is exactly what you did. So give us a little bit more of the specifics on the details. Is it a 4-fight deal? And is the money situation a lot better for you here now in this new deal?
Yeah, so it's another 4-fight deal. And it's a new deal, and the money it did increase, so that's great. I can look back and be like, man, if I'd have won the last fight, I probably could have got more money, might have got a bonus, but like I said, you can't look back and you do it anyway. You look back and say, what if? But at the end of the day, like I said, I'm still happy that I didn't get cut because there are guys getting cut, and especially coming off a loss, I was a little worried, but I think they like my fighting style. I think they think I'm pretty exciting. So, that helps, just because I lost doesn't mean I was done. So they still are interested in me, think I'm entertaining. So, I get I get to keep my job, get to go back out and, right my wrongs and keep on, being exciting, winning fights and, start my climb to the top of the bantamweight division.
Yeah, and go ahead, Garrett.
No, I just kind of wanted to touch base on, your progression and your, how you've evolved, since you've been in the UFC. I mean, you look at you, people probably would have thought, you're just a typical wrestler, D1 wrestler, a very good, all-American wrestler, but, you progressed in your striking as we've seen. How do you feel you've, evolved as a fighter since, your first fight in the UFC?
I can see big improvements. I think the biggest thing is, the move down to ATT and just getting the opportunity to work with so many talented coaches and my head coach, Steve Bruno, the drills we do, the way he approaches striking is very, for me, it's the perfect style for me because we don't do a lot of mitts and all the drills we do are they're defensive drills and we do them with another partner. So I think the biggest thing for me, I never was a big fan of mitts because my range was always off. So you're throwing punches and when you're hitting a mitt, you're expected every punch to land because when you hit mitts, they all land. So and your feet don't have to be exactly where they should be for real, but when you're doing defensive drills, your range is like exactly how it would be in a fight. So that's helped my range, helped me connect with punches. I could be the biggest puncher in the world, but if I can't touch anybody because I'm too far, it doesn't do me any good. So that on top of, I get to work with a lot of coaches. Every coach in the gym I try to work with. We have a ton of coaches, and I try to work with every one of them. And my grappling that I do most of my jujitsu with is Coach Bahumpa, and my grappling's gotten a lot better. As far as my wrestling used to just be more control, but now I've learned how to attack submissions now. So which is what one thing I was kind of lacking. I'm a wrestler, and I only have 3 submissions out of my 28 fights, which is crazy. I have more knockouts and TKOs than submissions, but I'm just getting well around. I'm learning every day. I'm learning new techniques from the top on the bottom in grappling, striking, kicks, elbows, knees, everything. So my transitions from clinch to back out, everything. So I'm just building every day. I'm getting better. So I'm just happy that I can actually show that progression, that people can see that progression without me having to point out. People can see the difference between my first UFC fight and my last fight. And even though I lost, I can still see the progressions. So that's one thing I can look back and be proud of in my last fight.
Yeah, and I know there's about like 550 different training partners for you to choose from at ATT, but tell me a little bit about specifically who you've been getting the most working with this camp.
This camp, it's been more, I've drilled with Sergey Moroz. He's also in the UFC. I think he fought a couple months ago, coming off a win. Trained with a couple guys that people don't really know a lot about, like Sal Guerrero, Jason Eastman, Mauricio Gomez, Victor Diaz. These are guys that they haven't broken through yet to the MMA worldwide stage, but these guys are really tough. And I always get rounds in with Adriano Moraes, Marlon Moraes. Pedro's coming off of a fight, so he hasn't been back in yet, but I got some rounds with him. There's a lot of killers in my weight class, from 125 to 135. So I'm fortunate that I get to train with these guys on a daily basis, and each of these guys, every go you learn something new. Everybody's good at something. So I try to be a sponge. I try to pick up anything I can from each go. They do their best. They help me, if I have trouble with this, with like a certain position, or there's something that they're catching me in, they'll let me know, do this, do that. And the same way with me, the main thing I can really help them with is wrestling, but cause they're so good, but and that's kind of like my forte is wrestling, but we help each other, and it's a good mutual training environment.
Yeah, and Tony, another thing I wanted to ask you, like for me, during the holidays and everything, I can feel when Thanksgiving and Christmas comes around because it's cold. I'm up here in New England and I'm freezing my tail off, but you're down there in Florida and it's like summer year round, even in December and January. So maybe it doesn't affect you as much. But my question is, how difficult is it for you to stay dialed in and stay focused during your training during the holidays, through Thanksgiving and Christmas, when everyone's going to parties and get-togethers and they're eating all kinds of good food? Is that problematic when you have a huge fight around the corner?
No, honestly, it's the same. With wrestling, it's been like this my entire life. With wrestling, obviously being closer to home and being close to my family, you get to do those things. But I've always kind of had to somewhat sacrifice, pigging out all these meals and stuff, through wrestling from high school all the way through college to now. So, I've done this so much now that it's kind of like, it's kind of just another thing. It's something that you have a goal and you do everything in moderation. It's not that I don't like to eat a lot. I love to eat and I do eat a lot sometimes, but you have to do things in moderation. Even though it's holidays and we want to celebrate, I know that I have a commitment to my career and my future, and my family understands that. And so this Christmas, especially since I have a fight in January, this past Christmas, Thanksgiving, we kind of like did something after Thanksgiving. It was like the week after. We kind of did a little bit of both. And I didn't want to travel during the middle getting ready for it. So, once this fight's over, we'll probably go to Universal Studios, and then I'll visit my family in Virginia afterwards. So, but it's not that hard. It's something that I'm used to, but it kind of is what it is at this point.
Yeah, you've been doing it for a minute, so I got to imagine that you have it dialed in. I also wanted to ask you too. Now that 2021 is in the rearview mirror, we're here in 2022 now. What is the big takeaways as far as a fight fan goes for you in 2021? Is there like a fighter that stands out as like a fighter of the year, or a fight of the year? Because there's been a few. I mean, Chandler Gaethje most recently. I mean, Rodriguez in his fight that he had most recently with who am I blanking on? It was Rodriguez and Yair, and who did he face?
Max Holloway.
Yeah,
Holloway.
Max Holloway.
Yeah, duh. Yeah. So I mean, there's been so many great fights. What stands out to you?
Honestly, I may be a little biased, but I still think Adriano's win over Mighty Mouse is up there, man. It's it wasn't necessarily like a huge like back and forth battle where it was could be considered like fight of the year. But to me, I think that's like the biggest fight that stands out in my head off the bat. That was huge. We all knew that we know how good Adriano is. So, to see him go out there and do exactly what we thought he would do, I honestly thought he was going to submit him, but, he knocked him out. And that was, that right there to me is the biggest highlight of 2021 for me.
What's crazy is I actually had Adriano winning that fight, and he was a huge underdog, so he cashed out for me quite mightily. So I was very happy with that when he was able to get that win. So I was actually kind of shocked. I just thought there was just way too much value there. I thought he's much better than what the betting lines were suggesting, and he really showed that. During that fight, did you think he was going to go any other way other than him getting his hand raised?
No, I thought he was going to win. I thought he was going to submit him. Honestly, I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be, maybe like third or fourth round. But the good thing is, Adriano knocked him out, but he was winning the entire fight. He won the first round, was winning. Well, it was like I think it was mid-second round when he knocked him out, but it wasn't like he got lucky. He caught him with an uppercut as he was shooting in the first time, I think, and then I think it's how he dropped him, and then he finished him, with the knee. They have different rules, but he dropped him with an uppercut, and then he finished him. He framed him off and kneed him at as they were coming up. So I was kind of surprised just the fact that it was a knockout, but I seriously thought it was gonna be a later in the fight submission because he's so good on the ground. But he's good everywhere. He's one of those special athletes that he's an athlete. He works hard, and just for that his length, and he knows how to use his body perfectly for his transitions from clinch to grappling, everything. So he's a special athlete for sure.
Yeah, monster win right there. Tony, I've interviewed quite a number of fighters in the UFC, and it's easy to say that you're one of the best when it comes to breaking down fights and giving your predictions and explaining why you feel like whoever's going to win the fight. So it's fight pick time. I got to get a couple of big picks from you. UFC 270, the event that you are fighting on, is just a massive event, headlined by Francis Ngannou, Cyril Gane, and then you got Brandon Moreno and Davidson Figueiredo. So who are going to win those two fights and why?
I think the main event, I think Cyril Gane's going to win. I think I think he's a smarter fighter. He's a more agile fighter. And I think it may even be a boring fight, but I think he's smart. He's smart enough and disciplined enough to stay on the outside. I think Francis is pretty wild. But I think Gane's going to win. It's one of those things where he has a fight, a really technical fight for 25 minutes if it goes that long. But the tricky thing is Francis can just barely land a punch, any piece on his head, and could finish it. So. But I think like I said, I think he's pretty wild. I think it's going to be. I think Gane's going to be like a matador. And is going to slowly wear on him. But the further the fight goes, the more it goes in Gane's favor.
Okay, and yeah, Figueiredo, Moreno, the trilogy. Do you feel like we're going to have Ann still, or we're going to have a new champ?
I think it's going to be Ann still. I think the last fight. I think it's going to be pretty similar. Pretty similar to that. I think I had seen somewhere where. No, that was a different fight. Never mind. But yeah, I think it's going to be Ann still. I think it's not going to be much different from the last fight. I think Moreno, hasn't figured out, and it's going to be pretty much the same. He's gonna finish with his hand raised again.
Okay. And Garrett, you're the betting guru over here. So, what are the early odds on those two fights? You must know.
I believe right now Gane is close. Gane and Francis Ngannou, I believe, are close to a pick'em fight. If I just scroll down a little bit, just give me a second. Yeah, right now Gane is a slight favorite at -115, and Ngannou's a -105 underdog. So it's basically a pick'em there. And also Brandon Moreno is a favorite as a -170, and Figueiredo is a +150 underdog.
So who do you guys have?
Go ahead, Garrett. I'll go last.
I gotta go with Gane. Just like you said, I do believe he's the much better technical striker. I do think he'd be able to stay on the outside, use a ton of kicks, keep the distance, and just kind of pepper him and just stay away. And mind you, this is in a 30-foot octagon, not a 25-footer, so it's going to be a lot easier for him to stay at distance than it were to be in the apex. So I do like Gane here. And like you said, it could be a boring fight because for Gane to win against a dangerous striker in Ngannou, he has to fight a very boring fight, a fight that, that's very smart. Stay out of the way. Don't get into a brawl. And I do think he gets the job done. As far as Moreno Figueiredo, I think it's going to be more of the same. I do think Figueiredo is going to be a lot better. Something just seemed off. He seemed like he didn't want to be there in the second fight. It was very weird. He didn't come forward. He didn't throw. I think he's going to, come in there with bad intentions, trying to get, Moreno out of there. He's training over at, Fight Ready with Henry Cejudo and Eddie Cha and, all those great, coaches and fighters there. I do think he's going to level up a bit, but I do think Moreno still ultimately is going to be tougher than him. He's going to have the better cardio, and I think he gets his hand raised again.
I just think it's funny how the narrative can change so fast because leading into that first fight with Moreno and Figueiredo, most people didn't think that Moreno stand a chance, including myself. I thought Figueiredo was going to annihilate him. What he did to Joseph Benavidez, I was like, oh my God, nobody's going to beat this guy at 125. So I'm pumping my brakes on that right now because I feel like this third fight it could be one of the best fights of the year. I think we're going to see the best version of Davis and Figueiredo. And as much as I love the champion Moreno, this is going to be a tough fight for him. So I'm really intrigued by that. And as far as the heavyweight bout goes, I mean, Francis Ngannou has like a death touch. All he's going to do, he doesn't even have to hit you. He can just go by and like graze the top of your head, and that could be enough to call it a night. So Cyril Gane could fight the perfect fight all night long, and he could still get clipped and put out. So that I'm just so intrigued by that, because he's not going to do what Stipe did in their first fight, mix in the wrestling. He's going to be staying, like you said, Tony, and you said, Garrett, on the outside. And that's a tough game to play with someone that just wants to stand and bang with you. I feel like the recipe that Stipe had in that first fight, getting him tired, getting him on the ground, is the way to diminish Ngannou's power. I don't feel like he's going to be quite as exhausted if he's not facing a wrestler that's going to get him on the ground and make him work. That, you know a lot about that, Tony, right?
Yeah.
So I'm so intrigued by both of these fights. I feel like they're coin flips. So either way, I'm super pumped. UFC 270 is going to be an amazing night. So Tony, let's dive into your fight, Saimon Oliveira. This guy is on a huge win streak, and he's got a very impressive record. Is this the toughest fight of your career to date?
I don't know. I'm not sure if it's the toughest. I really don't think it's going to be the toughest. It's the most important because it's the current fight. But I don't know. I'm prepared either way. Part of me hopes it is the toughest. Because it makes it feel so much better when you win, when it's really tough. But it's definitely a very important fight. I've been in the situation that he's in. I think he's on like a 7-fight, maybe a 6-7 fight win streak coming off the Contender Series. That sounds a lot like, how I was coming off the Contender Series. So, I'm just looking to spoil his debut. So, I know he's going to be tough, and he fights from beginning to end. So, I'm just going to be smart in the way I approach it, do the things that I do better, and, push the pace, and, make sure I stay focused from getting in. No more like heavy brawling, still doing what I was doing, mixing it up, and keep going where I'm getting the most success.
In this fight with Oliveira, just looking at his resume, a lot of his wins have come by guillotine chokes, front chokes. Do you see anything you have to worry about, knowing that, you're such a great wrestler? Is that something, that you're going to have to look out for coming into this matchup?
I mean, yeah, you definitely have to respect the fact that he has a lot of submissions from guillotine. So, obviously, if and when I choose to engage in the wrestling, just making sure my position's good. I'm not stuck on my knees with my hands on his legs. So just making sure my posture is good. I'm fighting the hands if he does grab around my head, and just being smart. These are things that I know to do, and situations I get in every day. I literally grapple with the best grapplers and fighters in the world every single day. So, these are situations that I know. I just need to make sure that, I'm aware as I'm going, and that I'm just focused from beginning to end.
Now, there are two other bantamweight fights on this card. You got Stamen and Nurmagomedov, and then Barcelos and Henry. With how crazy the world is right now, Tony, with everyone testing positive for COVID-19, and having to quarantine and all the different hoops that everyone has to jump through, is that something that you're paying attention to? Like your opponent, you never know what could happen. Your opponent could fall out. You could get COVID. So are you really looking at those other bantamweights, thinking to yourself, well, there's a chance that maybe if I want to fight, my opponent could drop out and I could have a new opponent last minute? Is that something that you and your team have discussed?
Isn't really anything that we've discussed, but I've kind of thought about in my head. You like you said, I noticed that those bantamweights are on the card, and I just actually noticed today that Barcelos and Henry were on this card. I remember I'd seen them; they were supposed to fight, I guess, before the end of the year, and something happened, so they got moved. And I just saw today that they were on the card. So that's definitely something that is in my head, because you never know. I mean, I've had opponents change before, so you gotta be ready for anything. But like I said, the good thing is I get to train with a lot of different bodies, a lot of different people that are good everywhere. So a normal day of sparring could be just like that. If we have a sparring round and we have 5 rounds and I have a new partner every round, I might have Kyoji, then Adriano, then Marlon, then somebody, all these different people that are good at different things. So you have to learn to adapt on the fly. So with that being said, I'm not going to have to adapt mid-fight necessarily, but it's a practice of switching up how you need to approach something. So those things that could very well happen. I could show up and my opponent could get injured or he could test positive. Other person, Barcelos could test positive and I'd go with Henry or Nurmagomedov, or you never know. So either way, I'm going to be prepared for whoever's across the cage. I'm going to be prepared. So if that happens, then it happens. If it happens in the future that I fight these guys, it's the same thing. So
now UFC 270 is at the Honda Center in Anaheim, California. I was actually there back in 2010 when Cain Velasquez beat Brock Lesnar. I was about 20 rows back, and that place just erupted. It's an insane venue. That must be really exciting for you and your team to kind of get out of the apex and go to a big arena where there's going to be a lot of screaming fans. How pumped are you for that, man?
I'm super pumped. It's crazy. You go from no fans to a huge arena, like nothing to like the max. So 0 to 100 pretty much, so it's cool. It's almost like I kind of forgot what it's like for it to be really loud and how loud it is. And, I'm excited for that. That's a different element to fighting that, I've always, I'm not really the kind of person that gets super nervous and the crowd makes me, more nervous. So I'm going to feed off the energy and I'm excited to get to experience that again. And, it's been almost over 2 years since I've got to experience that. So I'm definitely excited. I'm pumped that I get to compete on a pay-per-view, which is in itself is more attention drawn to it. So, I'm excited I get that opportunity, get the opportunity to be on a bigger platform with more eyes on me, hopefully build more of a bigger fan base and, earn some new fans.
Who will be in your corner there come fight night?
My head coach, Steve Bruno, Coach Mahumpa, and my wife. Those would be my 3 corners.
Awesome. And prediction time. How do you see yourself getting your hand raised? How do you see this fight actually playing out?
I think that I think I'll get a finish. I want to say maybe the 3rd round. I think the first 2 rounds, he's a tough guy. I think the first 2 rounds will be spent kind of wearing him down a little bit, chipping away. And I think towards the 3rd, I'll get a finish. I kind of feel like it might be a submission this time.
I love it. Garrett, you got anything else for Tony?
No, man, just good luck. We're looking forward to your fight, and I appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us.
No problem. Thank you guys for having me on. It's my first time meeting you, but I always enjoy talking to Ryan. So I appreciate you guys having me on and this platform to get to ramble a little bit. People get to know me and get to talk to you guys.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Tony, easily one of the nicest guys in the UFC and one of the best fighters as well, man. I can't wait to see what's next for you. 2022, I'm sure, is going to be a great year. Thanks again, buddy. And we'll do this after you get this win, right? We'll get you back on the show.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. And that's just about going to do it for us, Garrett. Man, what a great interview Tony Gravely is. As I said earlier, man, easily one of the nicest guys in all combat sports.
Absolutely. I had a blast talking to him, and just having, a conversation with him. Super nice guy. He's definitely one of my favorite fighters. I've been watching him for a very, very long time. And I know the sky's the limit for him. And I expect big things for him for 2022 and beyond.
Yeah, and this is a big fight for him. As we said earlier, if he would have won that most recent fight, that would have been 3 in a row. So he could potentially have been going for 4 wins in a row here with this fight. But hey, back to the drawing board, back to starting another win streak, and it all starts at UFC 270. So what a great event to be on, and we have a lot of fights to break down coming up here in 2022.
Absolutely. Tons of fights coming up. We got a fight next week. Unfortunately, we got no bets this week. I know we're itching to bet. We are too. Everybody wants to make some money. We're going to make some money just in 7 more days. It's coming. Don't worry. Next week, we'll have our best bets for you guys, making you a ton of money coming right up very shortly.
That's right. And as for now, we'll close the show, but don't forget to subscribe to both of our YouTube channels. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and we will be back next week with another great guest and a lot more MMA content coming your way.
Absolutely. You guys have a great night.